Are you ready for Senior Frontend Developer interview?
Yes, sir.
Then tell what a server sent events with a practical example.
That's a tricky question. Let me try to remember last week's YouTube video.
Hello everyone and welcome back to another video on this channel. So in today's video we are going to cover a senior front-end interview question which is based on server-sent events. So let's try to understand what a server-sent event first. So server-sent events is basically unidirectional communication or unidirectional event flow where server pushes updates to the client over HTTP protocol using the event source API. Now what do we mean by this? Let's just say you are using WhatsApp messages and you find the some user is typing event, right? Now those events are unidirectional. That is, user is typing event is not like you don't reply to user is typing event. You actually reply back to the actual message that you get. Now events like this, which are unidirectional, which are just sent from server to client, can be handled in a better manner using a server sent event. Another example of this is when you are watching live commentary on ClickBuzz or live news coverage for a trending event on some news website. In that case, you see that live updates are being pushed to your feed and you can view them, right? So all those events or all those live updates can be covered using server sent events because there is unidirectional flow. For bidirectional flow, it is always recommended to use WebSockets, but when there is unidirectional flow from server to client, in that case, it is recommended to use server sent events to like save the communication bandwidth and allow those events to be sent directly on the HTTP protocol instead of some other protocol. So here are some key features of servers and events. They are unidirectional as I mentioned just now. They use HTTP protocol, so there is no need for socket-based connection. They use a persistent connection, that is a single HTTP connection can be used for multiple updates. And for any reason, if the connection drops, the browser will attempt to reconnect to the connection. Now, this was the theoretical part. Let's try to understand the server-side events with the actual code implementation. So first we will understand them using some vanilla JS code. So this is what the code is on the server side. So basically we are using Node with Express.js to set up our server-side events. So we have our Express app, we have a core setup so that we can communicate effectively on our localhost. And this is the main server-side event example here. So we are using the slash events endpoint. And as you can see, we have the res.set header. And this is a special header that we use for server-side events, which is text slash event stream. And this tells the client that, okay, events are getting like streamed from the server and we will get updates from time to time. Then we have used a no cache and a keep alive connection header to keep the connection alive. Now we are sending a simple event here. We are basically using a counter. We increment the counter on each send event function call and we write the data as data is equal to some message like the event 1, 2 and just the timestamp. Now this send event function is called every 2 seconds using a set interval timer. And on request on close, we actually clear the interval and we log that the client is disconnected. So let me just start this server using node server.js and let me just go to localhost port 3000 on the browser. So I will go and open localhost colon 3000. So, and okay, slash events because we are like listening on slash events protocol. So this is the first event that we received from the server. This is the second, this is the third. So basically the server is trying to emit those events on the client side or on any listener which is listening on this API call. So we can then send this to a web page. So what we have done here is, let me just like stop the server for some time. So this is a basic index.html page where we have a server sent event examples as the header. We have a div with ID events, and what we are doing within script is we are using the event source API. So as I mentioned in the definition itself, we use the event source API to listen to the server sent events. Then we parse the event that we received. So the data that we received, so it is in string format. So we parse the data. We take that data and we append that using inside the events div by creating a new div using document.createElement, and div.textContent is added as received the data.message that we have and the timestamp that we have in the JSON object, and then we append that within the events div and we show it to the client. Then for any reason if the error happens, then we close the event. So that's the basic thing that we are doing. So let me just start the server. Let's test the events using localhost colon 3000 slash events. So we are getting the message, we are getting the timestamp, and let's try to like open it in a better manner using index.html. So this is the server sentiment example, and as you can see, we have the events getting emitted from the server to the client, and we are receiving those events. Now, if you want, you can improve the presentation of these events a bit. So let me just close the connection, and we are dropping from vanilla.js to, let's just say, a React app. So let me just close the server sentiment examples, and we jump into the server side. So this time what we are doing is we have improved the code a little, and we are creating a live newsfeed client. So we have set some categories like politics and other stuff. We have written a get image URL function by which we are taking some dummy images from Pixum API. Now we have defined a news endpoint, and in this news endpoint again we are using the text event stream as the header with no cache and keep alive connection. And we initially we send some initial news to this data, like we are sending the news feed which is an empty array. So initially we send an empty array, and we are using again a set interval function which is trying to emit it every 5 seconds. Let's just change this to, let's just say, 3 seconds, and let's just say 4 seconds. And what we are doing here is we are first creating a random index. We are taking the category random category from this categories array. We are taking some random image from the based on that category, and then what we are doing is we are building a news article. So we are sending the ID, then we are sending some dummy title, some content, the category, image, and the current timestamp, and we are sending it at the top of the array, and we are writing is at res.write json the stringify and send the news article to the client. Now let me just start the port and show you the response. So we have opened the server. Now I think this is listening on port 5000. So let's go to localhost colon 5000, and we are listing it on news endpoint. So let's hit that. Initial data is empty because we are sending the data empty. Now after 4 seconds we have the first news which has an ID, which has a title, which has some content, some category, and some timestamp. So we can take this JSON object and we can like use it to render it as a newsfeed. So let's go to the client app. Let me just stop the server for a while. So now we have a React app set up here. So in this React app, what we have done is we are using useState and useEffect. We have first initialized a news array using useState hook. Then in useEffect, what we have done is we have subscribed to the event source API, emitter event source by using the event source keyword. Same as the vanilla.js one, we are subscribing to the endpoint using the event source. And on each message that we receive from the event source using the on message listener, we are taking the data that we receive and we are passing it to our news array, like we are like using this spread syntax to pass it into the news array, and we are showing that news array in the form of a card in which we have the article, image, then category, title, content, and timestamp. So this is now listening on port 5173. Let us start the server again. So this will emit the events, and we'll go to the 5173 port. So this is the live news feed, and after 4 seconds the first news has popped up. So we have the image, we have the category, we have the title, we have some detail, random dummy detail, and we have the timestamp. As you can see, we have those events getting emitted every 4 seconds. So this is how a live newsfeed app can be built using servers and events, and this is a good starting point to understand how the emitter from the Node API uses the event source or event stream to emit those events to the client. So this was briefly what servers and events are and how you can use them to build, let's just say, live newsfeed app or live cricket commentary app, or user is typing kind of event that you usually see on messaging apps. All those can be handled using servers and events. So yeah, thank you for watching the video. Subscribe to the channel if you would like to watch more such content in your feed. And that's it from my end for today. Thank you. Have a nice day. Goodbye.
Well, I can even create Office Gossip Broadcaster app with this events. Follow for more such content in your feed.